Sorry about that, Elizabeth.
Sorry, hey, I was muted. I'll probably stay on mute the whole time.
Okay.
Just to watch. Yeah. Is there anything you need?
No, I am just setting everything up. It is now recording.
Okay. I think it'll be a good presentation.
Thank you. I think so too. I'm excited.
And those alternate dates work fine for those other two project ready.
Perfect.
So yeah, we're totally confirmed on that.
Wonderful. Okay, let's put participants. I'm going to keep everybody in waiting room until we're ready.
Okay.
I'll let the gentleman in.
Yes, and I'm gonna mute myself, and then I'll just be here to watch, and I can answer questions later. But the kids storm in at about 4:30, so that is why I will be muted.
Understood.
Yes.
Okay, I'm letting Michael Williams in. Hello, Mr. Williams. And do you need to show your own PowerPoint? Do you want me to make you a co-host?
That'd be fine.
Okay. I added your slides to my deck though, just in case.
What was that?
I added your presentation to my slides just in case.
Okay. Sounds good.
But I'm going to make you a co-host.
Okay, Micah just emailed. Says he doesn't have the login. He doesn't have the login for the call today.
Oh, did he register?
I forwarded it to him. He just needs to register, so I will email it again to him.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to start letting everybody in 1 minute. Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Key.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Okay, let's do this. Okay. All right, I want to welcome everybody this evening, and we are going to take a moment to let some people in. So be patient with us. I'd like to ask for everybody to put themselves on mute. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to Project Ready this evening for Thursday, September the 24th. We have a lot on our plate this evening, so I want to promise that we're going to start on time and that we're going to end on time. And I promise not to keep you more than an hour. Try to keep it under 45 minutes. So what I want to do now is make sure that we go over our ground rules as we always do. I want to make sure that we're always respectful towards adults and other students. And we will not engage in conduct that is harmful to others or the Urban League, its partners, and other property. Everyone should mute their microphones when they are not speaking to eliminate background noise. Do not share your Zoom ID or password with anyone. And when ready to speak, raise your hand or place a question in the comment chat box. And please stay open-minded. This slide is basically to show you what Project Ready is all about. We discuss this every time that we get together, so I won't read it to you, but this deck will be sent to you via email or placed in the Google Docs. Okay, I want to remind everybody of our schedule. We have October the 24th, November the 21st, and December the 19th for our Saturday sessions that are upcoming. And we have some very special guests that will be speaking. And I'll send out the details of who those special guests are. But one of them that's going to be speaking to us is going to be a previous student of ours from Project Ready, who went to Berkeley and then Dartmouth for grad school. And she was a part of the Millennial Gates Scholars Program. And so we are always excited to stay in touch with her and see how she's doing. And so she's going to be talking to you guys about her experience in college and some tips and the woulda, coulda, shouldas that she wished somebody had shared with her. So that will be upcoming, and I'll send some reminders with our schedule. I want to remind everybody to send me your introduction videos. And I want to thank individuals who sent me their videos already and got them to me before the deadline. September the 25th is the deadline. And I will send out another email right after this for the ones that I have not heard from yet. Okay, very special information right now, and this will be emailed to you right after this session, but voting and political awareness is so important right now. And we want to reclaim everyone's vote. Now, I know most of you are not over 18 and cannot vote, but your parents can, your siblings may. So I want to encourage all of you to educate yourself about the importance of voting, and make sure you stress that with your parents. And we have a competition going from the National Urban League, stressing the importance of voting and wanting to hear the voice of young people your age. So Mark Morial, our president and CEO nationally, has put a competition together. And he's asking for young people your age in high school to put a video together. And this video is going to be shared in a contest and submit it nationally. And then they're going to vote on it. And the winners will be showcased nationally. So I'll be sending information out to you regarding that. The deadline is October the 2nd. I shared this information with you guys during our orientation, and I will continue to share this information in emails to come as we approach the deadline, which is October 2nd, okay? If you have further questions regarding this competition, give me a call, and we can discuss some of the details further. And if you want to bounce some ideas off of me, please give me a call and we can discuss and bounce some ideas off of with each other. Okay, and now tonight we have two special guests from our partner corporation from Dudek. And I want to stress to you guys that it is important for you to think about careers other than just those traditional careers. And these gentlemen are going to share some information about archaeology. And how many of you, and you don't have to raise your hand or anything, but think about to yourself, how many of you ever thought of a career in archaeology? How many of you ever thought about who is researching for information about our history, whether you were Black or brown, and who's going to tell that history better? So I really think that it's important for you guys to consider some careers outside of being a doctor, outside of being a rap star, outside of being a football player or a gymnast. There are some other careers out there to think about in the science fields, in the STEM fields. And I want you to think about careers that impact our African American and Hispanic American environments. And I think that these careers really do impact those areas. And so with us this evening is Micah Hale and Michael Williams. And they're going to share with you information about their corporation, Dudek. They're going to share with you information about archaeology and I always get tongue twisted when I say this, paleontologist. And
Paleontology.
Paleontologist. And they're going to discuss with you the difference between the two of them. Okay? And so without further ado, please welcome Micah Hale and Michael Williams. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Kia, are you, there you go. So I can ask you to switch the slide and you'll switch it, Kia?
Absolutely.
Okay, I thought I had a remote, I'm just kidding. So my name is Micah Hale. I started the cultural resources practice at Dudek in 2012, and Mike started the paleontology practice there with a lady named Sarah Siren. And since then, we've contracted over $40 million in archaeology and paleontology, at least, probably way more than that. But and so California, more money is spent on archaeology and paleontology in California than anywhere else in the New World. And the only place that rivals the money spent in California would be the Middle East, like Israel or Egypt.
Or Egypt.
Yeah, and the reason for that is California has very strict laws in place to protect its environmental resources, including archaeology and paleontology. Go to the next slide, please. We're going to start with archaeology. Next slide. So the importance of archaeology where we're at is that humans leave the remains of their behavior on the landscape. So we study human behavior in the past. And in fact, there are archaeologists who study landfills to see if it's really working or not. But archaeology is a study of humans in the past, history and prehistory, and the information we need is dependent on the questions you want to ask. So if you look at the pictures here, there's several different things that are represented in our pictures. Next slide. Sometimes we find things that aren't too old. This is a very rare monopyute winter house made out of juniper tree trunks that's still standing near Mono Lake. And a Native American man and his family built this house in the 1850s to build the Bodie Historic Railroad. Next picture. These are some of the first spear points of humans in North America. People were carrying these alongside woolly mammoths and some of the last saber-toothed tigers up in the Mammoth Basin area. Next slide. We also find really cool things here on the San Diego coast. This is a scuttled ship on the shore of Carlsbad, and lore has it that it was smuggling things into Carlsbad when it was scuttled on the beach. And it's exposed at low tide every few years after a big storm. Next slide.
Like pirates or?
No, just people probably running illegal goods.
Okay.
And these are very common in San Diego. These are grinding holes, mortars, manufactured into bedrock. And this is where a family would sit, or multiple families, and grind acorns. Next slide. We also have amazing rock art in San Diego County. These are in the hills of San Marcos. In fact, designs like these don't exist outside of borderland territory with Mexico and Arizona, or down into Mexico. So we have very unique things in San Diego. So becoming an archaeologist is really easy. I always liked archaeology because my grandmother, who was part Navajo, would take me out on the mesas and show me artifacts and things like that. And that just stuck with me. And I never thought I could make a living doing archaeology at all. And I was fine with that because I grew up with no money at all. So I was happy just doing what I love. But to do it, I just take some coursework at a local community college, and you can get a certificate after a field school class offered by many of the local community colleges, and you can get paid to do archaeology after 6 months of training. You can get a bachelor's degree for entry-level salary jobs, local firms, and then there's graduate degrees, master's degree, and a PhD, depending on what you want to do with your life. I spent a large part of my career with a bachelor's degree, and I traveled around and spent over 1,500 nights in a tent. And then I got my master's degree because I wanted to start doing different things and run my own jobs. And why did I get the PhD? I still don't know. I think because people told me I couldn't do it. And I don't like people telling me I'm not good enough to do it. So I did it. I have some learning disabilities that really made it hard for me. And but I did it, and it was fun. And so that's how we become an archaeologist. Next slide. Working as an archaeologist, especially in San Diego County or California, is incredibly easy. There are so many firms out there that we need actually workers. Dudek, we lack workers currently on jobs, and we go slower for our clients as a result. So there's a constant need for field technicians, people who want to go out on the field and do archaeology. And there's an even greater need for people who can sit in the office, analyze information after the field work they do, and write it up. So field technician jobs, actually they pay pretty well. We start people out at around $20 an hour. And right now we have, Mike, we have something like 150 people signed up as needed workers, meaning we call them up when we have a job and send them in the field, and they do the job and get paid, and they don't have to be loyal to us. They go work for the next company. Next slide. So the most important message I want to send today is archaeology tends to be highly diverse in terms of its workers. We have people of all ethnicities and all genders working, and it's not a hostile field at all. In fact, it's encouraged. One of the things I wanted to impress upon with this call is our community in California, for environmental community, emphasizes the hiring of small and disadvantaged businesses, and a disadvantaged business would be one owned by a minority or other disadvantaged group. And we have several disadvantaged businesses that we hire on our major contracts. And so for instance, we have major multi-million-dollar contracts with the city of San Diego, and Dudek's share of these contracts is 32%, and we spread the rest along the other three subcontractors. And one of those is a African-American man who started NWB Environmental, and he's doing great. And he has a bachelor's degree, and he owns his business. And so there's just a lot of opportunity out there for people who want to get trained and want to do the work. Finally, we have incredible advancement opportunities, mainly because you get to say what you want in archaeology and anthropology. And if it's not popular, you'll find out quick. But you do get to have an open mind. That's a great thing about archaeology and paleontology, is you get to tell a story that you're interested in. My story, I'm interested in hunter-gatherer archaeology in the ancient past. And the reason for that is because you have to be really creative with the small amount of materials that you find. And I enjoy that a lot because it takes the structure or the restrictions of working with a lot of information. It takes that away from you, and you have to work with a little bit of information and be really good at it. And it's easy to be good at it if you're interested. So I guess that's my message today is I was told in college that don't do archaeology. There's no money in it. There's too many people in it. And I don't think that's true at all. I think there's a lot of people, good people in it, and there's a lot of room for everybody, and there's a lot of employment opportunity, including right now. We have not slowed down during the pandemic. We sped up. It's just that's how our work goes. So next slide. Kia, can you put it to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of a transition for me here, but if you're feeling adventurous, we hire interns often, and almost all of our interns turn into full-time employees at Dudek. So you don't have to be trained. In fact, one person came to us with no experience, and we helped put him through school. Now he has a master's degree, and he works for us full-time. So there's a lot of opportunity with our interns. Okay, Mike, your turn.
Thanks, Micah, and good afternoon, everyone. So the big question now is, what is paleontology? We've just learned about archaeology. Next slide, please. So paleontology is related to archaeology in that it deals with the past. We deal with we're a branch of science that deals with prehistoric plants and animals and the traces that they've left behind. And these are preserved in sedimentary rocks. They can be as old as 3.5 billion years or as young as about 5,000 years ago, which is basically written history, before written human history. And paleontologists usually earn degrees in earth sciences or biological sciences, but that's not always the case. There are archaeologists that have become paleontologists, as there are paleontologists that become archaeologists through on-the-job training and years of experience. And the pictures here show a stromatolite. That's about a 3 billion year old fossil. It doesn't look like much. The scale bar got cut off on the picture, but that's, the size of your finger maybe, and that's a 3 billion year old blue-green algae that was preserved in sedimentary rocks. And below that is a fossil mammoth tusk that I actually led a crew to excavate up in Lone Pine in the in the Owens Valley, and that's approximately 24,000 years old. So there's a wide range of ages we're dealing with in paleontology. Next slide, please. So San Diego and San Diego County, historically and prehistorically actually, has been dominantly underwater. I mean, that now we have this beautiful landscape we live on, but most of the time the landscape we live on now is underwater. And this is due to higher sea levels and tectonic activities, mountains raising and lowering. And basically, in San Diego County, we have rocks that range from about 220 million years old to very recent, hundreds of years. And the little geological timetable on the side of the slide shows where these are ages I'm going to focus on that for projects in which Dudek has collected fossil material from projects. So we have
Mike, where can some of these people go find some of these fossils, like Black's Beach?
Black's Beach, especially the Cretaceous and Eocene. Well, in the Cretaceous, about 85 million years ago, the Eocene here in San Diego County, about 45 million years ago. We have projects from the late Pliocene, about 3 million years ago, all the way up to about 12,000 years ago at the late Pleistocene epoch. And I'm going to highlight some of the projects we've had the opportunity to work on here at Dudek. Next slide, please. So what do we do at Dudek? Well, we have a large staff, as Micah mentioned, of over 100 as needed and full-time archaeologists and paleontologists, and many of our archaeologists are cross-trained in paleontology, so they're able to do both archaeology and paleontology. So we have clients that hire us to do surveys before they actually dig in the ground, before they put up a hotel or a parking structure. They have to determine if it's going to potentially damage archaeological or paleontological resources. So we do surveys, we write reports, we make recommendations, and then if the project goes on to construction, if the monitoring is recommended, we'll have someone on site while they're digging to make sure there are no either fossils or artifacts from archaeological artifacts destroyed during the construction project. Then after the construction, the fossils and artifacts are curated at a museum or a center that keeps them for future researchers. Next slide, please. So some of the paleontological discoveries we've found here in over 6 years of paleontology at Dudek we have about 13 projects in which we found fossils and collected them, and are in a process of being curated and have been curated at the San Diego Natural History Museum, and the Western Science Center in Hemet. These include plants, invertebrates, which are animals that do not have backbones, invertebrate animals like ourselves that have backbones or spines. Next slide, please. So I showed you the geological timetable. So during the Cretaceous, about 85 million years ago, this is during the time of the dinosaurs, most of San Diego County was underwater. It was below sea level. And we have a project from Carlsbad in which we've collected these fossil invertebrate animals, so snails and clamshells, that were basically living in the ocean during the time of the dinosaurs. And interestingly, some of the only known dinosaur remains from California come from within a few miles of this project site. So we were really hoping to find another San Diego County dinosaur, but
Everybody wants to know what that was, Mike.
what's that?
What dinosaur did you find? It was the
Oh,
Ankylosaurus, right?
I wish I found it. It was a hadrosaur, yes, a duck-billed dinosaur.
What about the Ankylosaurus in Faraday?
There is that one. That's the one that from literally 2 miles from this project site. But it's up higher on the hill. This is lower, and it unfortunately for us did not preserve any dinosaur remains. All right, next slide, please. So moving up to a younger locality, we have what we call Middle Eocene, about 45 million years ago. Much of San Diego County was still underwater at this point, so the ocean covered the land. We have several projects with Eocene age fossil recovery. This one is a local mid-coast transportation corridor in San Diego and La Jolla. You might have seen the elevated trolley tracks. This is all from that project. We found fossil leaves that you can see up in the top, this fossil crab, which is also highlighted in the background of the slide. We found numerous fossil crabs, including just claws and some full bodies with legs, and just about 125 localities or so. And a lot of them include these bivalves, these clamshells, and different snails, and a couple of vertebrate fossils. So we have a shark tooth and several fish scales that were preserved in the rocks. And
Kia, how are we doing on time?
We're doing good.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you. Next slide, please. So moving to even younger Pliocene, about 5.3 to 2.5 million years ago, we had a project down southern San Diego where fossil invertebrates and a couple of vertebrate fossils were collected. Here you see a pecten scallop up top and a gastropod snail shell below. You can the one on the bottom, the snail, is just an internal mold. It's not actually the shell material. And as far as the vertebrate fossils from this locality, we had some bat ray teeth. If you've seen those big bat rays that flap their wings like a manta ray in the ocean, they have these interesting teeth that are like plates where they grind mollusks like clams and mussels to crush them and grind them. Next slide, please. Okay, so becoming a paleontologist. Most paleontologists, like I said earlier, earn a degree in earth science like geology or biology, and this can get you into an entry-level job. And you can work your way up in a company such as Dudek or another environmental firm just with a bachelor's degree in science. Others opt to get a master's degree, and you can pretty much direct your own projects and start at a higher level in the environmental world, a firm like Dudek. But you can also work at natural history museums in their collections department, or even teach community college with a master's. Or you can go for the full PhD and just basically start at a bit of a higher level, and you can teach at any university or college with a PhD. You can be a full curator at a natural history museum, And you get to have a lot of fun learning about the world we live in and the history behind it. Next slide. So paleontology jobs are rare. I mean, there's not a huge need for paleontologists. You know, you don't see a shop on every corner saying, oh, paleontologist needed. But here in Southern California and in Northern California, but more here in Southern California, because of the environmental laws, there are lots of jobs, and there's a tremendous need for skilled paleontologists. We're always looking for someone that has either the passion and the drive or skill, because it takes a good eye to be able to recognize fossils in the field, and you can learn that, and it takes quite a bit of schooling too. But yeah, there's definitely the job market for paleontologists in California is looking good, especially compared to other states.
You know, Mike, I was going to say that one of the best places to find fossils of any kind in Southern California is on our beaches after they dredge the sand.
Yes.
For the beach replenishment and pump it back up onto the beach.
Mm-hmm.
We found fossilized giant sea turtle leg bone. My wife found that. I thought it was a piece of wood, and sure enough, it was a bone. And then she also found a fossil horse tooth.
Really?
Yeah, and a bunch of stuff. So I love walking along Black's Beach or going along Swami's Beach in Encinitas when they dredge the sand up, or even Oceanside. There's just a lot of fossil remains from the eroded bluffs that just get pumped back up onto the seashore.
Have
We often find artifacts like
ever come across a situation where construction has started and then you found something interesting?
Yeah, we find, in fact, I would say that 60% of our revenue is generated from following construction equipment, because archaeological finds, so remains of human behavior, arrowheads, pottery, grinding stones, things like that, human remains are found, I would say, weekly by us on jobs all across California.
From time to time we hear about burials. Do you ever?
Yeah, you know, humans, there's billions of us on the planet, and we all leave our body behind. And bone is very durable. So Southern California has always been a nice place to live. And so there's human remains everywhere. And we always partner with our Native American tribal members to come out with us on the projects, whether we're surveying, excavating, or following tractors. And there's laws that protect human remains and the treatment of those remains. I wouldn't say it's fun to find human remains, because it is a sensitive topic. And we try to treat those with dignity and respect whenever we find them. But they are difficult to detect. Once you know what you're looking for, though, there's pieces of human remains all over the place. And that's why our laws are so important, is because, you know, if it's your child, you wouldn't want the freeway to go through where you buried your child. So it's a very interesting question to ask yourself when you come upon human remains, but it's common. Working on high-speed rail up in Central California, we found a few full burials in the path, and luckily one of those was able to be preserved in place, and we found others that couldn't be preserved. The tractor damaged them. But, you know, Mike finds things like whale skeletons and stuff like that all over the place. You know, one of the more interesting finds for us is about 17 years ago, I was at another company, and we were doing the archaeology for Petco Park, the new stadium. And there was an old bank building, and back then the banks would melt gold and make their own currency, these giant coins that they would trade between banks when money transferred. And they're called bank exchange coins. And we found 5 or 6 as an earth mover passed through these giant gold coins. And there's probably dozens, if not hundreds, at the landfill. It's pretty funny. Gold. I found gold teeth before. That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I won't interrupt anymore.
No, it's fine. We'd love to move on to question and answer period. I think the point we wanted to make to people is that Mike and I and all the people that work with us, we have a lot of fun. doing archaeology and paleontology, and we get to travel a lot. You can travel all over the world if you want. One of our clients called us and sent us to Georgia on a solar farm to use ground penetrating radar because they found a headstone. Well, a local historian saw that it said Anderson on the headstone and did a genealogy that wasn't very good and determined that it belonged to these 5 headstones belonged to a white family in Georgia from the late 1800s, early 1900s. When we excavated, we did ground penetrating radar and found 11 possible burials, and 9 of them were African American, and 2 of them were Native American, and 1 was a Native American woman that was killed while she was pregnant. And so, you know, it's what you see on a headstone and what you believe, what you think it is. You have to do more research to figure it out. And it was fascinating to be able to preserve those burials, and they were moved to a local church about 20 miles to the west and reburied there.
And that's history.
That's history. 1 was a freed slave. So it was incredible to be able to repatriate basically that person's remains to their descendants in a local church. So there's all kinds of fun things we get to do, and on a daily basis. It's like any job. You can't get meaning from your job. You have to give meaning to your job, and I think it's easier to do when you like what you're doing.
Thank you. I want to open it up to if our youth have any questions. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. I don't see a hand. Anyone? Okay.
I would like to make ourselves available
yes.
with my contact information and Mike's, that anytime someone wants to contact us with questions or questions about an internship, there's our email, or that's my email. You can email me, and if it's paleontology, I'll send it along to Mike, and we welcome it. In fact,
you have internships available at Dudek in this area?
We absolutely do. We have offices in downtown San Diego area, Encinitas, Orange County, Los Angeles. They're all over California. So we're ready to help. In fact, we love it. We love when people think what we do is cool, and you get them in the lab and they get their hands on actual artifacts or fossils, and we have a blast with interns.
Just yesterday, you know, my niece and nephew were asking me a lot of questions about the La Brea tar pits and the sites underneath New York City. And they were getting very, very interested and excited. And even though they're 8 years old, they asked, could they be on this Zoom call so that they could see some more information about what you guys do?
Well, you know what I'll do is Mike and I will put together a longer PowerPoint and reduce its size and memory and give it to you, Kia.
Oh,
and you can distribute that. And we also have some other information for folks. We're building our website up so that people can interact more with us. But we're willing to do Zoom calls almost at any time with kids or adults or whoever wants to get more information or just have some fun.
Now, if there are individuals who are interested in internships, they can contact you. And do they have requirements? Do they have to be a certain age? Do you guys offer summer internships for high schoolers or only college age?
No, we do. I think the legal age for our interns, I think is 14 or 15.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll have to check with HR about that, but I think that's what it is. And we also pay our interns.
Paid internships.
Yeah.
Key, did you guys hear that?
It's fun. You know, we have taken in so many interns, and some people didn't want to move on in the profession. They just wanted a fun internship, and that's fine with us too. Other people want to make a career out of it, and you know, we've had several people who are interns that are now full-time employees out doing their thing as an archaeologist or a paleontologist.
Are there societies that youth can join, societies or clubs to learn more about this field?
There sure are. There's San Diego societies. So the San Diego Archaeological Society, SDAS, SDCAS.
Okay.
There's the Archaeological um, Curation Facility in San Diego County, SDAC, San Diego Archaeology Center.
Okay.
Has amazing displays and also opportunities for internships. That's out just about a quarter mile east of the Wild Animal Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we have Society for California Archaeology. There's lots of them, and I can provide that information.
That would be great information, and I can share it.
That'd be fun.
That would be great. And so when I get that information from you guys, I'll share that with the rest of the group.
Absolutely.
Okay, are there any other questions?
There's got to be one question about something cool.
And I want to thank Trinity for asking that question earlier.
Okay,
Mike, I'm going to ask it. What's the coolest thing you've ever found?
I was just about to say that's the question we always get. Well, for me, probably the fossil baleen whale in San Clemente was my first monitoring job, freshly out of school. So baleen whale, they don't have teeth, they have baleen. They eat krill and plankton. So I was on my first monitoring job, totally green, didn't know what I was doing, and all of a sudden.
How big was it?
Well, the ribs were about 6 feet long, so and the vertebrae, the backbones were about that big around. So estimated 30 to 35 feet. I just saw these crystallized bones at the bottom of a trench. So I told the operators, hey, stop, let me take a look. And I'm like, oh, sure enough, it's bone with a bunch of gypsum crystals running through it. They're about 4 or 5 million years old. And I was just like, whoa, blown away. I was stoked. I was like, this is crazy. So I was able to have the construction crew lift the sandstone block with using construction equipment to the side. I took some pieces to the museum to determine if we needed to excavate further to get it out. Turns out it wasn't significant enough because of the preservation. They're like, oh, just go ahead and leave the rest there. We ended up donating the big sandstone block with ribs and vertebrae to the school. It was at a Catholic church in San Clemente. And they had a school attached, so they have this big sandstone block that the students can look at and say, oh, that came from right below our
That's
school.
cool.
Yeah, so it was just a great project. It was my introduction to this
Don't
field.
you want to know my favorite one, Mike?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
And
Okay.
then we do have
What's your
some more
favorite one,
questions
Micah?
in the chat box too. So we'll hear about the stories and then we'll get to the children's questions.
Okay, the favorite thing, I don't even know how to talk right now because of COVID-19 isolation. The coolest thing I've ever found was that Mono Paiute winter house that I showed you in the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
My family and I went out hiking in the wilderness, Eastern California, and we stumbled upon that. And it is literally the most incredible thing I've ever found doing archaeology. A lot of times we find burned post holes or the concave floor of a house, and you have to piece it together, but to see it just still standing. And then we found pieces of ones that were 5,000 years old, about 9 miles to the east. And we found the stone axes still in the tree where they were chopping the tree trunks. Just amazing. Juniper trees can live for thousands of years. And to see those trees still living that were cut to make these houses, and to look inside that still standing house and see the headboards and the living area, just shocking, amazing.
So you get a sense of how they lived during that time period.
You do, and it's something that's so rare. There's probably less than 10 of those houses left in all of the United States.
Wow.
Probably less than that.
I have a question in the chat room. Do you have to have a certain GPA to be an intern?
No.
Okay.
Just be motivated and excited about helping out.
I have another question in the chat room is most of your work outside, and is there any work that you also do on the computers?
Yeah, so you basically can choose what you want to do. a lot of our work happens outside, and about the equal amount of work happens in the lab working on the artifacts. And then another third of our work happens at the computer. So basically, some people specialize and only want to be in the field. Some people only want to be in the lab or only want to write. But most people want to do a little bit of it all. I think that you go through seasons in your life where you love being away, and then you want to be home for a while and analyze artifacts or write. Go get an ice cream. There's no ice cream when you're out in the desert looking for stuff.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Well, we want to thank both of you for speaking to our youth tonight. And we hope that we can continue to have a relationship with you guys and learn more about this field and learn more about the societies that youth can participate in. And thank you very much.
Can I ask Liz Johnson a question here? Liz, are you on? Can you unmute yourself?
Ms. Johnson, please unmute yourself.
Maybe she
I have
can't
one
hear.
more question. Someone asked, do you have your own labs at your home?
We do. Now, and especially, I've always had one at home, but especially in COVID times, it's the law. We can't congregate, so we do our work at home. I do have a pretty cool lab in my trailer at home. So the answer is yes. Mike also, his garage is dominated by fossil cutting tools.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think that, Jazani, you have 2 questions. Go ahead and ask them. Unmute yourself. Okay, what she wrote, did they always want to be paleontologist? Did you
I'll
know,
go first.
how old were you when you figured out that this is the field that you wanted to get into?
It's a long story that I'll make short. So I always wanted to be a herpetologist. I wanted to study modern amphibians and reptiles. But I always loved dinosaurs. I always loved fossils. And then I discovered that I could study fossil amphibians and reptiles. So I could be a paleoherpetologist. And that's what I worked on in school. And my dissertation was in paleoherpetology. So yeah, it was kind of one of those things. I always wanted to be a scientist. I always knew I loved nature, and I loved dinosaurs. So it all just kind of came together. And yeah, so yeah, I guess the short answer is yes.
And you, Mr. Hale?
I think so. Ever since walking around looking for stuff with my grandmother. But you know, at different times in my life, I wanted different things, but that itch was always there. And I'm the guy that always looking down when I'm walking around. For that reason, it made me good at being an archaeologist. But you know, I think that you know if you want to do it or not. I mean, you can't go in a museum and think I'm bored, so I must not want to be an archaeologist or a paleontologist, because I get bored in museums. I want to go find this stuff that goes in the museum. So that's what I love doing. Yeah, I would encourage anybody that at some point in your life, you need to make it to Dinosaur National Monument in Northeast Utah. The dinosaurs are frozen in the mud. The river uplifted, and there's just all kinds of dinosaurs that are stuck in the mud. And you can leave the museum and walk for miles and see this rock formation that's uplifted. And my 4-year-old daughter found Diplosaur, Mike, or is it Brontosaur?
Diplodocus.
Diplodocus.
Yes.
Okay.
Sauropod dinosaur, the long neck giant.
Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty neat. The feet, she found the femur, and it was 5.5 feet long, and I didn't believe her, and I went up. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So you should make it to dinosaur.
Go into that field.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Okay. I have another question. It says here, do you travel outside of the country, the 2 of you?
Yes.
And where do
My long-term research project is in northwest Greenland at an ethnohistoric village called Etah, And that's where the Rasmussen and other Arctic explorers would stop and trade with the Eskimo populations, the Inuhuit. My research actually focuses on the people that came before the Inuhuit. There was a migration that happened from Alaska to Greenland when the ice melted, and they just followed the whales across the Canadian Arctic and ended up in Greenland, and they displaced the existing Paleo-Eskimo that were there. And so it's my research focuses on the Paleo-Eskimo, the older Eskimo that was there.
And you, Mr. Williams?
So I've done some field work in Inner Mongolia, which I discovered doesn't mean, it means it's between Mongolia and China. I always thought it's inner, like further. Anyways, so Inner Mongolia, and then you have regular Mongolia. So I spent 3 weeks with the LA County Natural History Museum out there collecting fossils from different age localities, and got to like just really see an amazing part of the world that just, yeah, I'll never forget that. I mean, it was some of these like towns were just so small. They'd never seen an American before. It was really, and just the food, the people, the lifestyle. Yeah, an amazing experience.
What about Egypt or South America? Any of those?
Yeah, I've been to South America, Central America, and I think that the important thing to answer that question is that you can go anywhere in the world and do archaeology because humans have been there. That's the humbling thing about it. But, there's so much interesting things to do in archaeology that you get overwhelmed. So you end up going from being a traveling field worker, which I did for years, and so did Mike. And that's when you kind of see the world and get your interests straight. And then you kind of settle down in an area that you want to live, or wherever your family is or where your interests are, and you start practicing your discipline there. So my family and my heart belong to San Diego County, and that's why we settled here, and it's awesome.
And then Trinity asked this question, and it's in the chat room to everybody. To Mr. Williams and Mr. Hale, what is your favorite period and or eon?
So I answered it in the chat. The terminal Pleistocene, which Mike, I don't want you to correct my dates there because that's how I see it. Academic liberty there, but
Yeah,
from about 15,000 to 11,000 years ago, when humans were occasionally ate mammoths. It's the first people in America. That's my favorite time period.
Okay.
And I answered mine would be the middle of the Miocene epoch, which went from about 23 million years ago to 5.5 million years ago. And there's a period during the Miocene called the Middle Miocene climatic optimum. And it was basically a global warming period where the global temperatures were so warm that animals and plants were evolving very rapidly. And it's just an exciting time in paleontology. You see a shift from like boas and pythons in North America, like the ones that are down in South America and Africa, to more of what we see today. And for me, for research point of view, it's just fascinating.
I see that Trinity likes the classic Jurassic period. If I was a paleontologist, I would want to be Jurassic as well.
Yeah, so.
No offense, Mike.
That's a tough one. Cretaceous, Jurassic, I love it all. So
I would want to find the first true animal that could fly. That's what I would want to find, because there's a lot of speculation on when that happened.
Pre-Archaeopteryx.
Yeah, something like that. The first flying animal, what would that look like? It probably was a bug.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah. I don't want to study bugs. I want to study the first vertebrate that flew.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry, Mike.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. You guys sound like you really enjoy what you do.
Yeah, love it.
Mike's a bigger nerd than I am.
I don't know. That's debatable, but
we give nerds a better name. We love it. I will say that there is adventure to be had. I've been chased by mountain lions twice until I learned that you're not supposed to run away from them. I had a bear come in my tent and lick toothpaste off my beard, but it was only a cub. I've been chased by an ostrich, and that was the most fearful experience of my life. I've been shot at 5 or 6 times.
The mountain lion.
Yeah, I've been shot at by humans, and I'm more scared of the ostrich. And it was running at me, and I was running like Indiana Jones, trying to get to the fence to jump over the fence. And there's high voltage electric line, and I had to grab onto it and throw myself over, and my pants caught the fence. I landed on my back right as the ostrich stopped, and it was trying to gore me with its big toe.
So do you capture any of these, because it sounds like you guys have some really interesting stories. Do you capture them in technical writing or journals or?
Yeah, all the time. I haven't told the story about the ostrich in 15, 16 years, but we normally try to document all of these adventures in peer-reviewed journals or monographs. It turns out we do so much work that most of our work gets written in a technical report called gray literature because it's not published widely. But yeah, we publish articles. One article I can send around if you'd like, recently published. We found in the central Sierra Nevada, this closed valley right about the time of Spanish contact, where the Native Americans were making their own bead money out of local soapstone, because their source of Native American money was cut off by ranching in the Central Valley. And so they made their own money. And it's fascinating when you look at it.
That does sound interesting. I'd like to read that.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat. I don't see hands raised. With that said, I think I want to keep it under an hour. So I want to thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for taking time out of your busy careers to talk to our youth. And I think that you shared some great information, some great tips. And I think you shared some opportunities in this non-traditional career path. And thank you very much. The message I would like to leave everybody with is you can make good money and have fun and enjoy your job and define what you want to do. The economy, the life that I came from, everybody told me that I couldn't make it, I wouldn't make it. And I mean, I don't know that I've really made it, but I'm having fun and I'm affording to pay my bills and having a great time. So I think that if we get rid of what society tells us are important and follow your own path, you'll find a way. Did you guys have mentors that you looked up to, or historical figures that were in your field that you aspired to reach to, or anything like that?
My mentor was my grandmother. She made it through the Great Depression, and she always had fun and always loved thinking about old stuff. And so she was my mentor, and she wouldn't suffer any foolishness from me. So that kept me on the straight and narrow. But I think that what you'll find is the fields of archaeology and paleontology are just full of mentors. There's such a big community of people that want to help you be successful that you won't fail.
And my mentor, oddly enough, just passed away last night. My PhD advisor, Dr. Chabot. Yeah, she was, well, I don't know what to say about her other than she was a great person, just so much knowledge, and treated her students like family. And a lot of students are from out of state, they're away from their families, and she knew how to really just make you feel like you're part of the family and get you excited about research and what you're doing. So yeah, definitely that's my mentor, and my mom, because she would take me out on nature trips every week, and we'd be out in the desert. She would just have a book in the car, reading a book, and let me go traipsing over the hills looking for lizards, snakes, and anything else I could find. So it opened up, helped influence my passion for discovery.
Thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry to hear of your loss.
Thank you.
All right then. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody.
everyone for being on the call. And you will receive information from me regarding the PowerPoint presentation and how to get in contact with you gentlemen. Thank you very, very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Contact us whenever you want.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye and thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.